Hey everyone, welcome to our event tonight. I'll give you a couple seconds to get your audio all situated. Thank you very much for being with us. This is our last career summer gathering for this summer 2021. So we've had about 4 of these already. It's a series of gatherings with the Dream.Us alumni, including myself. I'm part of that group. And basically, we're here to give you some exposure to different careers, fields, and what our alumni are doing right now as they're graduated college and they're off into the world. And we're hoping that you also learn from their experience and their wisdom. So thanks for being with us. Tonight is all about business careers. And what you'll see is that there is no straight path to a business career or a career in business. If you want to do that temporarily or permanently, you'll see that our alumni tonight are very well versed in many different aspects of how they got to their careers, talking about majors, talking about internships, that kind of stuff. So we hope that you're all here and ready to learn. This is a very casual gathering. You don't have to put your cameras on if you don't want to. We will not be sharing any screens or anything. So just sit back, listen, get yourself a snack, glass of water or something, and then we'll highlight our amazing panel tonight who's going to share their experiences with you. So first, you should all know who I am, I hope. I'm Sadana. I'm the Senior Communications Manager of TheDream.Us. I usually manage all those emails, texts, Facebook postings, all those things. That's what I'm doing for the Dream.Us. I also work on Dream.Us social media, press releases, that kind of stuff. And I'm also a graduate of the Dream.Us myself. My field is communications. So I have no business experience whatsoever at all, but that's why our alumni are here tonight. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Mauricio to introduce himself. Go ahead, Mauricio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mauricio Ramirez. I graduated from UCF 1 year ago. I'm working for Allstate Investments as a fixed income research analyst in Chicago. I actually just moved here last Friday after working remote for a year, thanks to Corona. And what I specialize in is anything high finance related, so investment banking, research, portfolio management, anything in that area. So anyone with interest in that area, feel free to shoot me any questions.
Awesome, thank you. We'll move on to Karen.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen. I graduated a year ago during COVID. And right now, currently I work for a local company here in Virginia. It's called Vari Auto Detail, but we do have a second business for Vari Cleaning Services. So I manage both businesses in our social media pages, as well as creating new ways of promoting ourselves and finding marketing tactics to how to get more clientele here in the local area.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. And next we'll go to Keela.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keela. I graduated from UCF in 2018 with a hospitality management degree, bachelor's degree, and I currently work for ADP. It's a payroll and HR software company, and I'm an implementation specialist. So basically, I implement their technology when they switch over to ADP.
Awesome. And lastly, Gloria.
Everyone, my name is Gloria. I graduated with a bachelor's in business administration in 2019 from Eastern Oregon University. And currently I am an operations and policy analyst working at the Oregon Department of Education.
Awesome, thank you. So as you can see, we have a vigorous mix of careers here, all maybe stretching over different fields, but all involving business in some way. So I'll actually start at the beginning, since most of you are currently in college, you're working away at your major, you're wondering if your major is actually going to translate to the career you may want in business. So I'm going to start with Karen. Karen, can you talk about how your major in college, which was communications, actually, how did that help you or not help you to get your current job that you have right now?
So I graduated, like Sedhan said, communications, and I specialize in media production as well as criticism, and I did minor in graphic design. I think the biggest thing for me was that in college, I wanted to have as many skill sets as I could to be able to do various areas. And I think that has been my more strong asset. So when I found this job through actually a network somebody that I knew through social media. She had actually reached out to me through Instagram to get help to apply for colleges because she was in a similar boat like a lot of us are, where we can't, get a lot of aid. And through her, I got to know someone else that she knew that they were looking for someone to take care of their marketing side, an in-house marketing person. And although that's not really my field, I was able to showcase her my portfolio of all the work that I've done in graphic design, as well as my strengths in the copywriting area. So in those two, I was able to showcase that I do have the skills, the basic assets, and that I can grow from there, even though I'm not versed well in the marketing area. So as I'm going through the job, I've been there for 4 months now. I'm learning and I'm growing as well. So it's about taking those things that you already have, but also making sure that you can grow from it. So don't think that just because you don't have this qualification that you're not made for it, because it's just a qualification that you can grow.
Absolutely, and build on, right?
Yeah,
Because then you
exactly.
can add on the marketing part, which you weren't familiar with. That's
Yeah,
pretty great.
exactly. I'm still
Yeah.
learning along the way.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I don't know anything about marketing. I just do the communication side myself. So,
Yeah.
and next I want to move to like licensing and certificates and that kind of stuff. Keela, I'm going to call on you to ask about how, if you had to get any licensing or certificates to get where you are right now at your job at ADP.
So I was fortunate to go to UCF, and then I specialize in hospitality management. And I feel like they pushed us to go out and get internships. Like we had to either get a different position or we had to get like a higher position in our company. So we had to do 3 internships, and ADP was my last internship. I had no idea what ADP was. But I kind of knew when I worked at SeaWorld that I did not want to do hospitality management because I like work-life balance and I need my weekends. So my internship at ADP is really what put me on the map to work there and then get in there full time. And then they also have continuing education. So I was able to get my CAPM, which is a certified associate in project management, through ADP. So for my internship, I was able to go ahead and get a full-time position with them.
Got it. So that's funny how you had never heard of ADP, because I know of them as well from just payroll stuff, and maybe our scholars in the attendees know about them as well. Let us know if you know what ADP is in the chat. And then, so I'll ask Mauricio the same question. You're in the finance banking world, and did you have to acquire any other licensing, certificates, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so generally in finance, because you are giving advice to people on investments or transactions, whatever, you generally do need some licenses. Personally, I don't need any licenses. I work on what's called the buy side, so we're the side in finance that actually buys and invests in securities or assets. And I work for Allstate, the insurance company. So we don't take any outside money. So we're not advising anybody else. We're just managing Allstate's money, which, fun fact, Allstate actually makes more money from investments than insurance. Just most people don't know that. But others will need some licenses. If you want to go into financial advising, there's a few licenses you might need, like Series 7, 63, 65, 66. You go into investment banking, I think it's Series 72. There are some designations that are recommended to get, CFP for financial advising, or for someone in analysis like I am, the CFA, the Charter Financial Analyst, which I just took the level 1 of. It's 3 levels. I took level 1, not this past Saturday, the one before, and I'm just waiting to get the results, and we'll see how it goes. But again, it just really depends the specific niche that you go into, whether you'll need a license or not. But designations are out there, and they're recommended. At some points, after a certain level that you get to, you might want to have them if you want to jump to a different job or get promoted at work. You definitely want to get those.
Yeah, it's always good to keep what I would say is investing in yourself, right? There's no such thing as like too much knowledge or too many credentials. So that's good. And I didn't understand any of those acronyms you mentioned, Mauricio, but I'm sure if there's scholars on the call that want to go into finance, I'm sure you know what those are, or you can ask Mauricio what those are. So I'll go to Gloria. Gloria, you work for the Oregon Department of Education. And at first I would think, oh, is that in the field of education? Is that in the field of politics? Is that in the field of business? So tell us, what's your day-to-day like? What is exactly some pros and cons of your day-to-day job?
Yeah, so Donna, so to answer your question, it's a little bit of everything. It is definitely education, it is definitely politics, and a lot of people, and it's definitely business. There's a lot of project management that goes into the work that I do. So many people in the office where I work are former teachers, former administrators, former counselors, and then there are people that have never have worked in a K-12 school system before. And I come with a little bit of both backgrounds. I was a data specialist at a high school prior to joining ODE. So I have a little bit of that education background, but not a licensure, like a teaching licensure. So that's where my business degree really comes in. I'm an operations and policy analyst. So I do a lot of project management, working with school districts and supporting their grants. So we walk them through like the implementation of their plans in order for them to meet requirements for them to be able to access the funds. And then we do like project management in terms of like data. They have to submit quarterly reports to us, and then there's that follow through. So it's a lot of project management, and that's where my business degree comes in. And of course, like I mentioned, there's other positions where that education background will come in. But for me, for my specific role, that's kind of where my degree comes in. The pros for me is working at a state level job is definitely that comfortable Monday through Friday schedule. I heard Kelia say, I need my weekends. And yes, definitely there's the benefits of the weekends, the Monday through Friday job. Right now we're working remotely. It's very flexible in that aspect. So that's the pro. The cons is if I want to elevate myself in another position, a master's degree is really going to be a requirement. There are other positions that need a master's degree, and that's something I don't have. However, there's a lot of opportunity for growth and support. So one of my professional development goals is to actually do bill implementation and rule writing. And so that's something that my director is supporting me with, slowly joining some teams to learn. So that'll allow me to jump positions that will still allow for a promotion, but there's just a little bit of, it's restricted as to where I can go from here without a master's degree.
And then are you very keen on staying with the Oregon Department of Education, or is it something that you would maybe want to change and go to something a little bit more traditional business?
No, I'm happy where I'm at. I love supporting education. I love the work that we do. I might change positions, work in a different office, but right now I'm set on staying at the state agency.
Got it. Great. And how about anyone else? Are you thinking of grad school to advance yourself in your current place, or is that you think you're good where you are?
I'll jump in on that. Yeah, grad school is definitely something that I'm thinking about. I wouldn't go in anytime soon. I would first want to have, 3 to 5 years experience. It's generally what's recommended. But definitely whether to advance myself, within the company that I'm currently at, or if I want to make a jump, maybe to a different industry within finance, that's actually very common for finance. So for example, if you want to go into an industry that maybe you don't have much of a background on, or you haven't worked directly in, you might want to go and get your MBA. So that's something that I definitely keep in mind. And for those that don't know, TheDream.Us has the loan now, which I'm sure you guys can get more info on after you graduate. So definitely look into that.
Thank you for that plug, Mauricio. So I want to ask about jump back to majors and what to do to prepare in college. If you're like, for sure, I want this career in business. Any advice on how to prepare in college? I know Keela mentioned internships. So maybe Keela, you can expand on that as well. And then anyone else can jump in about using your major to prepare in college for your career.
So initially, I wanted to do business, but I'm not a big math person. And I saw that in UCF, one of the requirements was you have to do calculus. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I wanted to do more of leisure business hospitality. So in hospitality, the main focus, it's still business, it's just specified business. So we still take like risk management classes and leadership classes and marketing. So I'm happy I was able to take hospitality and do different classes and still have a business major. And also that helped me in my position at ADP because one of the biggest things at ADP is retaining customer retention. So the customer service side of it and the business skills really helped me in my career. So I feel like I'm not exactly in my major, but my degree still helped me in a way. So I know some people don't go into what they they go to college for. And honestly, whatever makes you happy, whatever you feel is most comfortable for you, I would say go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I know that in college, we spend a lot of time being like, I have to choose the right major so I can get to this specific job. And then we get sort of focused, too laser focused on that, when really, like, I think almost any degree will translate to any kind of job that you may end up in someday, you know, specifically not like being an astronaut or something, but like, yeah, just getting a degree in something is a good foundation to start with. And then Mauricio, I wanted to come back to you, given that you told us before we started that you had been working remote and then actually you met your coworkers in the office. So tell us what's your day-to-day like, and what are some pros and cons of working on the investment side at Allstate?
Yeah, so the day-to-day is a little hard to explain because there's really not anything set that we're doing on a daily basis. I would say maybe a lot of reading and keeping up with, the news and the markets. But I can give you an example of currently, because we, companies are reporting their second quarter results and, their financial performance and all that good stuff. Which is actually very boring calls that you have to listen into and take notes. So that's one of the things that I do, listen into those calls, take notes, and then give the summary and my opinion to the analyst and the portfolio manager that I work with on, do I think this company's still doing well? Do I think the outlook for this company is good or bad? Updates on models that we have for the company. I'm also transitioning, I'm in a rotational program, so I'm transitioning to also having other roles as well. I decided to stay with my team, but also do a little less of the research and work more with the portfolio managers who decide how to allocate the portfolio, what bonds we're going to buy or sell. And they're also the traders. So they're the ones that actually put in the orders. And, if you know anything about, like, let's say stocks, it's pretty automated, right? I'm sure a lot of people here have something like Robinhood and have traded through that before. Bonds are a little different. They're still pretty old school. It's not as electronic. So, you still have to chat with somebody. You still have to hop on a phone with someone to place those trades and kind of just meet in the middle for the pricing that you want. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that apart from the research that I was already doing. And again, it's hard to explain the day-to-day because it's also different all the time and markets are always different. And, sometimes one company or an industry might hit the fan and all your focus is going to go there. Other times, it might be a very cool, chill day where we're just working on new deals that are coming out to the market and determining if we want to invest in those. So it really depends.
So basically, you already told us the big secret that insurance companies make a lot of their money investing rather than from the insurance side of things. So that's why the stock market is so critical to what you do. So is that a 9-to-5 job like the others, or do you find yourself?
No, we're definitely not working 9 to 5.
Okay.
I usually start my morning, and I'm talking Central Time. When I was in Florida, I was obviously an hour later. But I'll get to the office the days that I do have to go into the office. We're in a hybrid setting around 7 a.m. or 7 to 7:30 a.m. And then depending on the day, we may leave anytime between 5 to 6. If it's really busy, there's a lot going on, maybe even a little later than that. It really depends. No weekends though. So if you hear the bad stories about bankers and weekends, I am not in banking, so I don't have those bad stories, but investment bankers do have that terrible slave job.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And then I want to pivot to Karen and talk about someone in the chat said that they wanted to pursue a career in advertisement or something related to that. That's sort of similar to what you do for the auto company that you work for. Do you want to talk a little bit about how advertisement might tie into your day-to-day?
Yeah, so like I said, I did have a similar degree to communications, and it does come into the field of like taking care of the social media pages. But one of the biggest things that I also have to do is figure out when is the right time for advertisements, when's the right time to market certain promotions that we want to follow through. When I started in April, one of the biggest things is that they had just opened up their local shop. We have over 10 years in business, but one of the biggest things that we don't have is our relationship with one-on-one clients. We have a relationship with dealerships around all of Virginia and Maryland, and also now Pennsylvania, we just expanded, but we don't have that one-on-one. And so what my job is to try to get that local side of us to be a little more stronger in that area. And the best way to do that is try to figure out how to advertise ourselves locally. What do people want to know about auto detail, and like how that's the benefit? What will benefit them with that? What's the benefit between that versus a car wash? Or what's really, is this service really worth it? So figuring out at the beginning of the month was like, what really is the difference for me was learning a lot about the business. And then from there, working and seeing what's our demographics. And from our demographics, I implement my designs. So like I design a lot of like what I post, as well as the promotions that I post on both Google, Yelp. I created Nextdoor, and we also are trying to implement our TikTok. So following all those pages, it's like we have to be able to manage all of them at the same time, creating the different demographics. In TikTok, it's informal. In Facebook and Instagram, it's a little more formal, and figuring out which type of way in each format. So I think getting to have that experience in all those areas is really important, and figuring out how you're going to write for each social media page. So I think in advertisement, it's definitely a field that you have to know your business at first before you like jump in and start figuring out how to advertise for that demographic. But that's what I've been learning for the last 4 months, is that our demographic is much older. And so I have to also communicate that way in our designs, in our posts, and how I express ourselves, but also make it a little more fun, not like be a robot. One of the biggest things is my boss wants us to be more human. We don't want to look like we're just like, bam, a picture of a super photoshopped car. We want to showcase our human side. And so I also do a lot of the photos, and I also take videos, and I edit them in a way that they're like short, simple, and to the point.
Wow. So I'm familiar with this because I do similar for TheDream.Us. So you kind of like, you're like a Jill of all trades, doing all these things and managing all of this stuff. Because same with us, TheDream.Us is also trying to get on TikTok. So I completely understand that.
Yes.
And different demographics, definitely, we know that, like, for example, in a scholarship, parents are on Facebook, but college students are on Instagram or whatever, so it's like, definitely I'm familiar with what you mean about juggling all of these things and catering to your audience. So in advertisements, that's definitely something that's going to come and play a lot. Yes. And then let me see, I'm checking the chat. There's people putting their career goals in the chat. Suzanne says they are doing a business degree with a concentration in human resources. So I don't know if Keela, you would have anything to say about that in terms of what your work at ADP does in terms of human resources.
Sorry, I was unmuting. So the core of our business at ADP is payroll, but we do have a lot of different modules. So we have like the time and attendance part of it and the HR part of it. So we definitely have like service positions in HR and implementation positions in HR. But it's more like business to business. So basically we have different clients and we service their payroll. We don't do payroll for them, but we help them with it or we implement it for them. So I'm a payroll implementation specialist. So I, from start to finish, go through everything payroll and implement them, but they're also like HR implementation people for the HR module and time and attendance and reporting. So I feel like there's a lot of different avenues that you can go through at ADP, and there's a lot of different career paths that you can go into if you want to do HR.
Got it. And I feel like those kinds of degrees or concentrations can take you anywhere too. Like you could be doing HR for, a variety of businesses and things like that. So someone did mention in the chat that they're doing a business administration degree with a concentration in accounting and finance with a minor in economics. Jacqueline, that sounds very heavy. Good for you for taking that on. And you want to own a business or work in a finance department of a company. So that's more definitely towards Mauricio's wheelhouse. So owning a business, working in finance department, that's definitely a lot of math, a lot of the math that Keela doesn't want to do. So yeah, for sure. And then, Gloria's mentioning we have HR in all state agencies. Gloria, do you want to expand on that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have our HR business partners. So if I have any issues with anything that I need figured out, then I would just reach out to our HR business partner. And typically they work with different offices within the state agency, which they could support. So one of the questions that we didn't get to, it talks about how our status impacts our ability for career opportunities. So as I'm a DACA recipient, if I have questions like with my DACA reaching expiration date, then I would just reach out to our business partner and say like, if my DACA doesn't renew in time, like what would happen to my work? So they work with all of that. They work with any issues, any complaints that happen. So they have large roles, but yeah, there's obviously HR there that's involved. And so yeah, state agencies also.
Yeah, that's what I mean, where you can literally have your degree and be working anywhere for government, for, that's pretty cool with these kinds of degrees. And then Perla has commented, I'm a supply chain major and want to be an operations manager, work within logistics or procurement. I would appreciate any network connection as a graduate from Colorado State University. So speaking of networking, which is great that you bring that up, Perla, your network starts right here. So if you all want to go ahead and drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat right now, you can all connect with each other. You know that you're all here for a business sort of career path. So drop your LinkedIn in there. And I do have my colleague on with me, Camilla Salkov, who's also another graduate of TheDream.Us and works for TheDream.Us. We're everywhere. And she is our operations manager. So Camila, if I can call on you, put you on the spot to talk about you actually do have a degree in accounting, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Camilla, in your Jurassic Park t-shirt to ask you about your degree in accounting and how that translates to your operations manager role here with us.
Sure, yeah. And I heard there's another person in the room that's also doing accounting. More power to you. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. It does pay off at the end of your career once you graduate. So I'm sorry, what was the question again? I got too excited.
You can be excited. This is cool. So you're an operations manager. So how did your accounting degree help you translate to that, or, you know, pros and cons of being an operations manager, just to shed some light for our attendees?
So I am a major in accounting, and then right after I graduated with my major in accounting and in a minor in business, I went for my MBA. So my MBA was obviously really helpful. So whenever you want to move from a regular position to a more managerial kind of role, so whether you want to be an operations manager or just any kind of manager in the finance / accounting industry, I would definitely recommend that you go for that master's degree. I know it sounds like a lot, and honestly, they do understand that when you moved in your career and take that path, because 99% of people that are going for their master's degree in business related, I guess, kind of majors do have a full-time job. So they do understand that you have a job, and then they do also give you time so that you can, you know, like get your stuff together and work. It is a lot of work to like go for your MBA, but it does help you get towards that next step in your career. So if you want to go for management in general, you need to know that you're going to need at least 2 years worth of experience in whatever field you have. So yes, I obviously went for accounting. Accounting is a lot of finance, and specifically me, I was in banking for about 2 years, and then I was in finance / advising for a year for a private company. And then I was in stocks. I got my licenses. I had my 6 and my Series 6, my Series 7, my Series 63. So I was advising clients and all that good stuff. So then I kind of decided to actually just a recommendation for everybody that is in the business world, which is what I did myself. And I was just like you, I graduated through this scholarship in 2018. Once you work for any kind of financial company in general, after you're there for a year, part of your benefit package is that they will help you pay for you to get your graduate degree. So that's the way I did it. So that's definitely like a recommendation for everybody. Like, check out your benefits, make sure that you're taking full advantage of that, because getting your master's degree would definitely take you and help you get to the next level, which is management. So for whoever asked that question, definitely consider working for a couple of years first so that you can learn a little bit. And also you want to be a good manager. Like, if you want to be an operations manager or any kind of manager, I feel like you want to know how to treat people. You want to know how to develop your employees, and you're not going to be able to just learn that by going to school. You also need to live it yourself. So learn from your own managers, ask questions, and that would definitely like help you a lot.
Thank you, Camilla. That's great. And that mirrors what Mauricio said earlier about wanting to have like work experience, like 2 to 3 years work experience first before jumping into that graduate degree. And that is also part of your education and training. So thank you, Camilla. You can turn off your camera now. I won't put you on the spot anymore. All right, so I wanna, if there's no other questions in the chat, I'm trying to incorporate, you know, most of your career fields to let you know if there's anywhere here that we can offer some advice to you. You obviously may not wanna do exactly what our alumni are doing right now, but definitely share stuff with us in the comments, ask any questions. I see Gloria has already answered a question in the chat there to someone. Very good, thank you all. So I do wanna talk about your status. And we do live with this cloud of a status over us sometimes. Has that ever been any kind of barrier to you getting your job? And if yes, how did you manage that? So anyone can take this.
I'll jump in just real quick. I have to say that for me, I'm very fortunate that I have DACA. And with that, I'm able to work at the state agency, so it hasn't become a barrier at the moment. My DACA is set to expire in a month though, and if it doesn't expire, like, I will probably have to take a leave of absence unpaid until that's resolved. Luckily, I wouldn't lose my job it would just, I couldn't work until they would hold my position until it renews. But if I didn't have DACA, I wouldn't be able to work at the state agency. I think I would have to work in an external company, maybe doing different type of work. But yeah, fortunate for DACA in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. DACA usually helps us sort of just be invisible as far as that kind of thing. But then when it comes to the renewals, and there's been a lot of delays in renewals at this period of time, it does put you a little bit on edge about, taking that leave of time. Anyone else have any experience with their status helping or hindering them at their current job?
I just want to say that I was really fortunate. I'm so thankful that we have DACA because right when I graduated from high school in 2014, I had no idea like what I was gonna do. And then I was like, okay, now we have DACA. And then I found a scholarship. So I was able to work and go to school. So I feel like that was a blessing. And without that, I wouldn't even be where I am today. But I definitely do get that message from HR when it's time to renew the documents, like they have it automated and they let you know like you need to update your status, and I usually do. And I know there's a lot going on, but I'm just so thankful to have DACA. I feel like it's such a blessing to come to the country, and it's like a country that's not yours, but basically now it is because this is all you know growing up. And then to have the opportunity, I feel like it's such a blessing.
Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I just wanted to give more so a comment and stuff. For those that may not be as fortunate to have DACA, don't let that hinder your opportunities. It's going to be more difficult, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be impossible. It just means that you may have to take a couple more extra steps to find them. Because I know a couple people that don't have DACA, and unfortunately, even with them currently in college trying to find aid, it's just so difficult. And me having DACA, I try my best to be a support to someone who's actually just a few years younger than me. She's about to transfer and she's trying to figure out where to transfer. So I'm kind of trying to mentor her and figure out how we can do it together. Although I may have not be in the same situation as her, I think helping each other out like that is something that you got to find ways. And it's like, if you have someone that's helping you, or if you're able to help somebody, I would say like it's even more stronger that way. So I'm thankful that I can try to help this girl who I really have a really good connection with, that I didn't even know her up until just a few months ago. She reached out to me, and now I feel like I'm kind of like getting this like mentor role model with her that she never had before. So hopefully that, whoever is trying to has a hard time right now, it's not like going to be impossible. It just means a little more steps to take.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thank you for sharing that. It's true. Sometimes we do like really depend on DACA, but it's not impossible without it. I'm going to drop in the chat the link to undocuhustle.org. It's a website that basically shows you how to start your own business or be an independent contractor, basically like from scratch. Like literally they'll tell you like what business, forms you need to fill out to like start your company, and like how to get a tax ID and all of this stuff. And it can all be done without work authorization. So I'll put that link in there. I know, I forget who it was, but someone mentioned they wanted to own a business someday. So just in case, it's not impossible to do it without DACA, and definitely lean on your networks, find that mentor. And that's a great thing you mentioned, Karen, you being a mentor to others now that you're in a position to help. So I want to ask the panel, was there any mentor that helped you along the way? Was it someone in college? Was it someone where you are now? Was it a family member? Let's talk about, the people that we lean on to help us get where we are. So I'll have Mauricio take this one first.
Yeah, I think definitely there was a lot of people that helped me throughout college, and also just, whether it was college or career-wise. I think one of the first people that helped me, he is actually part of TheDream.Us. His name is Kevin, if you guys don't know him. He went to UCF, and, we met. I don't even know how exactly. I don't remember. I know we met somehow because of DACA and the organization that where all the DACA kids were part of at UCF. But he helped me start off, with my resume and, kind of helping me navigate through the college of business. And that helped a lot. But also I had help from a lot of people from an organization that I was part of called Alpha, which if you guys don't know, you should definitely check it out. They're in, I think, about 170 or so colleges around the US. So there's a lot of people there that are very willing to help and put you in the right path, for any career in business that you want. And then there were also a couple mentors, with one in particular who he was in a very similar path to where I was, except 10 or so years ago. And he just randomly reached out to me on LinkedIn one time because he saw my background and he thought we were very much alike. And I asked him if he wanted to be my mentor, and it's the first person that, and actually the only person that I officially asked if they wanted to be my mentor. And we just hop in a couple calls every month or every 2-3 months, and just a regular conversation, ask questions. He put me in touch with some of his old coworkers because they were. He used to work at Goldman Sachs, and I was interning there for a summer. And some of those, his old buddies, gave me a lot of good advice. One of them, frankly, told me, if you want to start on the buy side, leave Goldman. That's literally what he told me, although I was interning there and he was working there. So I followed that advice, and honestly, it was the right decision. But coming back to the point of the mentorship, I think that I was never someone that had many official mentors. I just had people that wanted to help, and I've been in that position too, with Alpha and other organizations that I was president of. I'm putting a lot of kids in the right path, whether it was official mentorship or not. I think that it's important, and you're not going to get there alone. People have gotten there before you, and they know the shortcuts. Maybe they went in the hard route, and now they can tell you how to get there through the easier route and give you the sick little pointers that you would have never expected. So just network, talk to people, whether it is official mentorship or not, whether it's just a friend or somebody that you reached out to on LinkedIn. Definitely try to get advice and try to get those pointers, because you will get to where you want as long as you put in the work. And if you're a little lucky, you meet the right people to help you get there.
I agree. That's great advice. Anyone else want to talk about a mentor or some sort of network connection that helped you along the way?
I'd like to share something real quick. In terms of mentor, I think multiple aspects of that. I had a leadership class that required us to have a mentor and for us to do check-ins. And I selected, I asked some administrators where I worked if they would be willing to mentor me. And so I chose different personalities that I really enjoyed working, that I had a lot of respect for. And so we just had continual check-ins. But the other piece that I really wanted to share is just how mentorship can also happen in really unstructured settings as well. Like Mauricio said, just reaching out to friends and having conversations. I had a really fruitful conversation one time with a school psychologist that at the school where I used to work, and it was really just a check-in. It was a conversation, and I was sharing that I had gotten this scholarship and I was working full-time and going to school full-time, and how I'm a mom and I was struggling, and we were having all these conversations. And he's like, what are you going to do with your degree? And I'm like, I have no idea, I don't know. And he was like, you should start looking for jobs. And I'm like, I'm not even done with school, I just started. And he was like, well, that's how you can know what's out there. That's how you can know what type of positions there is, what the requirements are. Apply for some of them. You'll get experience interviewing. It doesn't mean you're going to go. And so he was the first one that kind of just told me, just put yourself out there. I ended up applying for a bunch of jobs, didn't get any of them, but I networked. And at one of a couple of interviews, actually, I had a district level director come to my office at the school to tell me, I'm not going with you, but I want you on my team, hold up for me. And I didn't wait, because I wasn't going to wait. I ended up finding a different job, but it was that point of networking as well. So it's just able to put yourself out there. And when I was going to go for the current position that I'm in, it was a huge promotion, and I doubted my, like, do I really meet the requirements, knowing that there's former administrators and people with PhDs and master's degrees that have some of these positions. I'm like, like, am I really gonna get there? And one of a conversation from a current coworker, he said, you know what, Gloria, like, I see your strengths. I see how much you care. You're passionate. Like, you represent this student group. Like, I think you would be great. I know you have the experience. And he told me, like, don't tell yourself no. Like, you let somebody else tell you no. And so I went for it, and here I am. So it's just one of those things of, like, mentorship can happen in different spaces. And a lot of it is just kind of being willing to open up and kind of be vulnerable in a space. And sometimes, like, these, like, magical conversations happen that just really mean more to you than the person even realizes. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that as well.
That's great, Gloria. And you never know too when someone will, change your life, whether it be advice they give you or a position or something. So networking is not always about like, oh, what can you do for me now? It's sometimes it's a relationship that you keep building and working at, and then it usually pays off, I would say. And to the networking thing, I'll say, like, we're all first generation college students, and when I got to college, I was older, so I kind of knew some things. I knew, like, hey, I should do an internship in college, or, oh, I should start networking in college. And no one really told me these things. I just sort of picked it up. But it was, like, really hard for my parents to understand why I was doing all these things. So just a little bit of story, I'll say, like, my freshman year, I was like, I need to get an internship. Like, I was this very eager, like, type A student, if you can tell. I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to get an internship. And she's like, do you have to? Like, is that necessary? So I basically got these questions from my parents, who obviously didn't have the background, didn't have these experiences, but somehow I knew it was important. And I ended up doing 7 internships while I was at college. Yes, like Mauricio said, you put in the work, you go after what you want. I made a lot of connections, a lot of people. As I mentioned, I was in communications, and I met a lot of, like, journalism contacts and marketing contacts, and, like, different people across the platforms. And you never know when those people will then come back into your life and really make a difference for you. So I would say I'm so happy I did that. And then I would see my peers in college, they'd be, like, in their senior year, and they'd say, oh, I should get an internship. I've never done an internship before. And I would like try not to, like, stand there and gawk, but I'd be like, oh, I think you should have started working on that earlier. And what I'm trying to say is, in college, we often feel like we have to do step 1, then step 2, then step 3. But really, it's kind of like overlapping. Everything is all together. Like, as soon as you get in there, like Gloria said, you just look at the jobs that you want to get, look at qualifications, apply to them. You're not going to, like, get them and say yes, but you know what's out there. You don't have to wait till senior year to do that. You can do that at any time. So I'm going to give our other panelists a chance to chime in on anything you'd want to say on mentorship or networking, how that's helped you.
So I wanted to chime in on the mentorship. So basically, I had people like advisors. So before I went to UCF, I did do Miami-Dade College when the scholarship just came out for 2 years before I transferred to UCF. And I grew up in Fort Lauderdale. So we had this academic advisor, and his name was Miguel, and he was amazing. And sometimes the scholarship money didn't come in time, and the college would want to drop us, like, from our classes. But he was really good in stopping them and blocking them and, like, working with financial aid so that we stay in our classes until that money came in. So he was very helpful in that. And then also, when I got to UCF, I had another academic advisor. And basically, like I mentioned earlier, if you didn't get your 3rd internship in a hospitality management degree at UCF, you couldn't graduate. So you had to do something. And I was, like, applying for all these internships, and I got turned down from all these jobs. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I was talking to my instructor, and he said, and I was like, hopefully I get this ADP internship. And he said, when you get the internship. And I feel like that motivated me because it was him manifesting something that I was unsure of because I got rejected so many times, and it ended up being better than all the other things I applied for. So sometimes when you get, even if you're applying for internships and you're getting rejected or jobs, it's redirection because there's something better for you. And this may be cliche, but definitely my mom was a mentor to me. Honestly, just her. It's me and my brother, and I'm originally from Trinidad, so we came when I was like 6 and my brother was like 8, 9, we're 3 years apart. And then just her being a single mother and providing for us and making sure we were always good. And then she was always there. I always say my mom gives us like all 5 love languages, anything we need to be able to push through college and get that degree for me and definitely for her. She was one of my biggest inspirations and my biggest mentor that got me through college. So it can definitely be academic advisors, friends, family, anybody that you really connect with to get through your time in college.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
And we have 2 questions in the chat that are pretty good. So I want to get to those before we close out in about 5 minutes. So Brittany's asking, has anyone ever thought of leaving the US for an easier pathway to citizenship, more funding opportunities, more higher education? Has anyone thought of that? Maybe not.
I'll just respond quickly. No, and part of that is just that I have a family, 2 children born here, and I fear of the opportunities that I would be taking away from them.
Got it. Thank you for sharing, Gloria. Karen?
For me, I think it sprouts usually whenever it's really difficult. I think the biggest thing for a lot of us is probably when it was 2017. I was in my first full year at Nova. I had just finished, and I think it hit really hard, where it's like you get all these jumbled thoughts, but you have to think that it's a lot at once. So all of us go through it, and we all have to really think, what's our next move, you know? And for me, I think having the support of my family, it would be really hard for me to be somewhere else without the support of my family. So for me personally, no at the moment, but it does become difficult. Like, I know that question is really hard. Like, would we do better somewhere else? Possibly. And the question is if you want to take that leap and you're ready for that. You know, if you feel prepared for that, I would say you do what you have to do, because you have to live for yourself in the end. And if your parents can understand that, that would be great. But if you have other circumstances like Gloria, I mean, you have to do what's best for you and your family, you know, whoever your family is.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I actually did leave the country. So I made that decision. I left in 2019. I now live in Canada, and it was the best decision that I've made for myself. As I mentioned earlier, I was an older student, so I got the scholarship when I was 28. And I pretty much lived most of my life in the US without DACA, without anything. I'd only gotten DACA 2 years previous to getting the scholarship. So I was fed up. I was at the end of my rope, and I wanted my life to mean more than how I was living at that time in the state of Georgia. And you know, everyone knew this about me. My parents knew this about me. My coworkers knew this about me. So I definitely took that risk myself. To leave the United States. I gave up my DACA status and I came to Canada. I'm also fortunate that my husband got a job offer in Canada. And actually, for the person who mentioned supply chain, my husband is a supply chain manager here in Canada now. And that's how we're able to migrate. And for us, speaking personally, it has worked out. We're now permanent residents in Canada. And so for me, like I said, best decision I've ever made. My mental health has been a lot better. I feel secure for the first time. I don't have to worry about my temporary status. I don't have to worry about every 2 years. But as Karen said, it's a personal decision you make for yourself. And it's definitely a lot of risks. Obviously, I cannot see my family. I can't return to the US. So it's a lot of pros and cons, and you personally, what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. And then knowing that you're doing something for the greater good. So I think, you know, my family understood that I always wanted to do more, always wanted to achieve more. And so they understand. they understand when I made this decision. So Brittany, if you want to talk to me, I'll leave my email in the chat. We can talk about that because I actually did make that decision. And then thank you, Gloria. Oh, Gloria says she read the article about my story and it's going, yes, it's going really well. After 2 years in Canada, I have permanent residence, whereas I lived for 20 years in the US with nothing and then only DACA. So I definitely see that as a win for me and I'm very happy, except for the cold weather, which we discussed previously before this call. The cold weather kills me. And Keela, I'm from Guyana. So I'm from the Caribbean, like Keela, we're right next door to each other. So I'm very much a tropical Caribbean
Nice.
person. Yes, exactly. But here we are. Canada is for me. And then Christopher has a question, which we'll close out with. So how do you guys feel when you were finishing your undergrad and then you were like pushed into the workforce? Because he's about to finish his fall semester he'll finish, and he feels like he's not prepared. So anyone wants to talk about that?
I'll chime in. For me, I think, I don't know, like Marisa also graduated like during COVID. So for me, it was really difficult, I think, graduating that way, because I felt like those last few months were the last few months that I was really trying to get as much as that information that I could get from like people around me and my professors. Like I said, like some of the classes that I was taking were production wise classes, which was one of my biggest like classes that I really wanted to take and like learn from to take into my future and hopefully grow from there a little bit more. And in my last semester, I knew I had applied earlier in the semester, so fall. I was in the spring semester, obviously, when COVID happened. And in fall, I had been applying for a lot of stuff because I knew I didn't want to jump in right into the workforce. I wanted to gain a little more experience, even if it wasn't a full-time job or anything like that, maybe like something part or even just like another experience to gain into your resume. So I had applied to a bunch, and obviously with COVID, everything got stopped. And then in the fall, thankfully, I was reached out to by one of those companies that I had applied to. And so I got to do an internship during COVID. And that had helped me to bring back some of like that like anxiety that I had during that time, and all that part where COVID really brought a lot of us down, where we're like, what are we gonna do? We're just home, you know? So for me, that last few months in college, I was really like, what am I gonna do? Like my plans to, you know, get out of college just to gain more experience, and then hopefully a year start looking for a job. I wasn't going to fully jump in. Something that I had seen one of my close family members did, that they took that time for themselves and slowly looked. That's what was my plan. And because of everything that happened, it didn't go obviously as planned as someone would expect. But just keep your mind open and always check your emails because you don't know what opportunity could be coming through your emails. Whatever you may have applied for maybe a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, they may be reaching out to you and you could just be missing it. So thankfully, I was really good about checking my emails when I saw it. So I would definitely be like, just don't like think like you have to do so much, just go along with it. And also give yourself time, because you obviously have studied so much that maybe you need to take a little breather and also see the options, because like all of us have different majors and we're not doing like maybe the exact thing that the major is. So you could find a field that may be related but isn't exactly what you expected.
Thank you, Karen. Does anybody else want to talk about feeling prepared for the workforce after you graduated?
I just want to say that my internship helped me transition into my role. However, as an intern, I was shadowing and observing. So when I got on the front line, it was a huge learning curve that I had to go through still, though. And what I learned, even talking to these different HR people and these payroll practitioners, you kind of learn on the job. So you're kind of just thrown in. And like, yeah, you learn a lot from college, but you really don't learn a lot until you are thrown into the job and you're figuring everything else out on your own. So it's okay to feel like, it's scary and it's unprepared. Everyone goes through it, and you're definitely going to figure it out, and you are going to get through it.
I kind of just want to echo some of that. That college, it's going to be very different to what you're going to do in the real world. And just to say it frankly, what you learn in college is absolute bullshit. And sorry you're recording this, Anna, but you know me, you know how I am. You're not going to learn anything useful.
We'll do the bleep that they do on those. No, I'm just kidding.
Good. You're not really going to learn much useful stuff other than the very basics. Everything that you're going to learn is going to be on the job. So get internships, get as many as you can. I had 4 or 5 internships. I don't know. So by the time that I was out, I was fine. I felt ready. But right before I started my full-time job, I had an internship, and then I transitioned to work full-time for them until I started the job that I'm currently in now. Because COVID brought a lot of risk, and we were in the credit market, and with companies that we didn't know they were going to tank or not. And I had some very difficult industries that I was covering, like healthcare and aerospace and airlines. So I transitioned to work full time for the time being. So I felt prepared. I felt fine, and that's because of the internship experience, and not just that one, but every other internship that I had. I learned something useful from each and every single one of them. Even my first one, it was in sales, and it was because I wanted to do something in sales, because it's honestly a very good skill to learn how to talk to people, how to read people. And at the end, you're always going to be selling an idea. Whether you work maybe consulting, you're selling, an idea on how to restructure a business and implement it. What I do, I'm always pitching things. So pitching investment ideas. So I have to sell them. I have to convince the portfolio manager that this is a good idea and this is why we have to buy it. So you're always going to be doing some of that stuff, which is why I took that internship. But take as many as you can. Ideally, if they're in the field that you want to go into, that's fantastic. Makes it even better. It gives you, higher chances of getting that one job that you want. But at the end, I always say some experience is better than none. So try to get at least something, and you will feel so much better than, going in blind and not knowing where you're going to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're almost out of time, but I just want to say real quick for like students that are like non-traditional from straight from high school into college. I was an older student as well, 27 when I started with TheDream.Us. And so I worked full time. I had work experience, and I just want to name that unprepared feeling is not just for people that don't have work experience. I think that as we enter new jobs, new opportunities, new things that challenge us, like we're going to have that feeling like, am I really ready for this? Am I up for this? So there's that feeling of not being unprepared, but on the day-to-day, we constantly work to reach like our self-efficacy. So you just have to trust yourself and like put yourself out there, and definitely reach out to your support systems. But just naming that unprepared feeling is common for all of us at different points.
Thank you, Gloria. Yep, I agree with both of those. I think my internships and that kind of experience, the exposure helped me to definitely transition easier, and getting familiar with things like ADP while you're still in college, to know what those things are, definitely makes a sort of softer landing once you graduate. And we are over time, so if any of our panelists have to go, I completely understand that. We only, booked you for 1 hour kind of thing. So it's very great to have all of your advice and your different perspectives on with us tonight. There is one last question. Paula dropped a last minute question. I don't know if any of you have this experience, but she wants to know if anyone's ever left their company to pursue a new industry. What steps did you take, and what advice do you have? Yeah, I don't think anyone's really made that kind of transition.
I could speak a little bit. It's
Go
still
ahead.
kind of in the same, but while I was going to school, I was working at in the school district. I started as an instructional assistant, and then, excuse me, worked as a data specialist. So I was in the K-12 system. I really wanted to stay. Actually applied for a lot of positions within the district, and none of that really worked out for me. So I worked to state agency. So moving from working at a school level to working state level was actually really intimidating. It was actually really challenging. But in order to prepare for that, I actually did meet with a director and kind of did like an informal interview to kind of just learn a little bit of more about like what a state agency is. There's a lot that you'll hear about state work, and that actually has a lot of connotation to what state agencies are. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to work at a place like that and also be removed from a place where I wouldn't be able to like directly work with students and have more of that direct one-on-one impact. So the steps that I really did was just reaching out to the director that I knew through a friend, and we just met. We had lunch. He's a director, so he told me a little bit about what they do, what the positions do, and that made me feel a little bit better after I learned all about the great work that they do, how they worked. Actually, the position that he's in worked as a really strong advocate. So Oregon would give in-state tuition to DACA recipients. And so just learning about like the positive things that come with the state agency, that's kind of what pushed me to be able to actually apply in that direction. Because other than that, I was really hesitant to look into the state work.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gloria. Basically, if you're intimidated, if you're maybe unknown, do these informational interviews, reach out, do a lot of research, get yourself more comfortable with the new industry that you're trying to get into, talk to people who are actually doing it, and they'll change your perspective on what you thought it may be. So I'm going to wrap up. Thank you all very much for being with us. We were a smaller little group today, but I think we really got some great advice. A lot of the takeaways is put yourself out there. Don't say no to yourself. Definitely put yourself out there. Internships, mentors, networking, definitely go after what you want, put the work in. And I'm going to go back to what Karen said about reading emails. I know TheDream.Us sends you a lot of emails. That's partly my bad, but also, yeah, we're trying to help you with all of this stuff. Like this series is part of that, giving you exposure to these careers, these alumni who are doing it. And we're sending internships all the time. We currently have one open with Teach for America. And we also have a career workshop with BASTA if you're a junior or a senior. So I know emails, you get a lot of them, but the TheDream.Us ones are the most important because we're working on all of this stuff for you. So it's not just about the scholarship, like my colleague Camilla said, it's more than a scholarship. So thank you all very much for being with us tonight. Thank you for our panelists for taking your time, sharing your experiences. This is it. Have a great night. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Good night.